Welcome back to the Whispering Hour, where the world sleeps and stories wake. Before we begin tonight's tale, don't forget to like the video, comment where you're watching from, and tell us what kind of stories you'd love to hear next. And subscribe, so you'll be here when the next story wakes. Now, let's begin. I was doing my usual night rounds when I noticed something strange in the east wing. The hallway was quiet, the way it always is around 2 a.m., but that night the quiet felt heavier. Like the building was holding its breath. Room 309's door was slightly open. That bothered me instantly. The room had been empty for 2 nights. Mr. Dale passed away there. Housekeeping cleaned it, folded everything neatly, and locked the door themselves. Seeing it open felt wrong. I stepped closer slowly. My shoes made soft taps against the floor, and each tap echoed a little too long. I pushed the door with 2 fingers, trying not to wake anything that might be sleeping inside. The overhead light flickered twice, then steadied. That's when I saw him. A man was lying on the bed. On top of the blanket. No wristband. No chart. No four. Nothing that suggested he belonged there. Just a man. Breathing quietly. As if he had been there the entire time. I stepped inside and lowered my voice. "Sir, can you hear me?" He didn't move at first. His face was turned slightly to the side, eyes half open, breathing slow and steady. I checked his wrist, warm skin, a strong pulse. He blinked once. Slowly. And then he whispered, "I didn't leave." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" He swallowed. His voice barely lifted above the hum of the light. "He didn't want to be alone." I froze. "Who?" The man's lips trembled before he answered. "The one who died." The room suddenly felt colder. He continued speaking in that same calm tone. He kept looking toward the corner. Asking if someone was with him. I told him I was here. I felt a shiver run across my back. Nobody was assigned to this room. It was empty. The man shook his head slowly. No. He wasn't alone. Behind me, something clinked softly, metal tapping metal. I turned toward the cabinet. For a split second, I saw a faint silhouette reflected in the metal. A figure standing near the foot of the bed. I whipped around. Nothing. The reflection was gone. My heartbeat picked up, pounding in my ears. I stepped back carefully. "Sir. I need to get a doctor." "Don't move." He didn't respond. His breathing remained steady, like he didn't mind whether I came back or not. I left the room, closing the door behind me. My hands were shaking slightly, and it took me a moment to speak clearly when I reached the nurse's station. "Dr. Lewis," I said. "We have someone in 309. He frowned. "That room is vacant." "Not anymore," I said quietly. We walked back together. When we reached the door, it was fully closed. Not halfway. Not slightly open. Perfectly shut. Dr. Lewis pushed it open. The room was empty. The bed was perfectly made. Sheets tight. Blanket smooth. Monitor unplugged. But there was one thing out of place. A fresh dent on the pillow, exactly the shape of a head. Warm. And on the bedside table, a heartbeat monitor lead lay coiled neatly, still warm to the touch. Dr. Lewis looked confused. "Someone was definitely here," he said. I nodded. "He told me he stayed with Mr. Dale the night he died." Dr. Lewis turned sharply toward me. "How would he know that?" I didn't answer. Because I already knew the truth I wasn't ready to say out loud. Whoever that man was. He hadn't come through the front door. He hadn't walked in with a visitor. He hadn't been transferred. He belonged to that room in a way the living do not. I didn't sleep that day. And for the next 2 nights, I kept thinking about his words. I didn't leave. 3 days later, strange things started happening again. I was checking vitals when I heard Harriet from room 315 humming softly. The tune was shaky, but peaceful. She was an older woman with a gentle face and a memory that wandered off on its own sometimes. When I entered her room, she was staring at the corner. Not scared. Just watching. "Everything okay, Harriet?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "He's back." My heart skipped. "Who?" "The quiet man," she whispered. "The one who sits there at night. He watches the door." I looked at the corner. Nothing was there. Just shadows overlapping from the hallway light. "What does he look like?" I asked softly. She closed her eyes like she was trying to remember a dream. "He looks sad," she said. "And tired." Her vitals were fine. Her mind was clear. She wasn't confused. I checked on her every hour that night. Each time she said the same thing. "He's still there. He's sitting now." He moved closer. By morning, she said he had vanished quietly, like a sigh. 2 nights after that, something else happened. It was 2:45 a.m. I had just finished my break when I heard a soft knock on the break room door. 3 gentle taps. Not urgent. Not hurried. I opened the door. No one was there. The hallway was empty. But on the floor, right against the doorframe, lay a small paper heart. Crooked edges. Unsteady cuts. Like a child had made it. On the back were 2 words. "Still here." The paper was warm. Fresh warm. Like someone had been holding it tightly. I didn't pick it up right away. I just stood there, staring at it, swallowing the rising chill in my chest. That night, the East Wing felt different. More alive. More aware. Every sound, every shadow, every shift of air felt deliberate, like someone walking just behind the edges of my vision. The quiet man wasn't gone. He was waiting. For something. Or someone. And deep down, I knew he was waiting for me. For the next few nights, I stayed alert in a way I hadn't before. The East Wing felt different now, like the air held a pulse of its own. Shadows didn't scare me, but the silence did. It was the kind of silence that feels aware of you, the kind that notices when your footsteps speed up. Room 309 stayed quiet but not empty. Not really. Every time I walked by, I felt something, like walking past a doorway where someone had been standing a second earlier. The air had that after-presence feel. A warmth. A tightness. A small weight that didn't belong to the living. One night, near the end of my shift, I found something new inside the found things box. A small, metal heart charm. It was the same charm sewn onto the scarf we found in room 309. This one was loose. Detached. As if someone had removed it on purpose. There was a tiny fingerprint pressed into the metal. Not fresh, but not old either. I closed my hand around it. The metal felt warmer than it should. Something wasn't finished. Around 3 a.m., I checked on Harriet again. She was awake, sitting upright, holding her blanket close to her chest. Her eyes were fixed on the doorway this time, not the corner. "He's not in the room anymore," she whispered. "He's looking for you." My pulse tightened. "Why would he be looking for me?" She shook her head. "He thinks you can help him." I knelt beside her bed. "Help him with what?" She hesitated, her lips pressing together. Then she spoke softly, like repeating something she shouldn't. "He said you're the only one who listens." Her hand trembled slightly as she pointed to the hallway. "You should go," she said. "Before he gets tired of waiting." A chill crawled down my spine. The hallway outside her room was empty but heavier than before. Like the air had thickness. Like someone had just passed through. As I reached room 309, the door was half open. Not wide. Not subtle. Half open, like an invitation. I pushed it gently. The room was dim. The blankets were untouched. But the pillow had a fresh dent. Deeper than before. As if someone had just gotten up. I stepped inside slowly. My breath fogged slightly, even though the heater was running. The quiet wasn't dead, it was listening. As I stood there, something shifted at the edge of my vision. A shadow moved near the window. Slow. Careful. Then the man stepped into the faint glow. Same face. Same tired eyes. Same calm voice. "You came back." I swallowed hard. "I didn't think you'd want me to." He lowered his gaze. I was afraid I wouldn't be seen again. I took a step closer. "Why me? Why not the others?" "You noticed," he said. "Everyone else walks past ghosts like they're furniture." His tone wasn't angry. It was sad. I asked him the question that had been on my mind since the first night. "Why are you still here?" He looked at the bed. Then at the pillow. Then finally at me. He was scared, the man whispered. He didn't want to die alone. And I stayed because I know what it feels like to be forgotten. His hands shook slightly as he spoke. He had a daughter. He carried her scarf for years. I tried to tell him he wasn't alone, but he couldn't hear me at the end. I pulled the small metal heart from my pocket and held it out. His expression softened. He nodded. "That belonged to him," he said. "He held on to it the night he passed." "And the scarf?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "She made it for him when she was little. It was the last thing she ever gave him." He stepped closer, only one quiet step. "Return it to her," he whispered. "She needs to know he kept it." His voice shook slightly. "That's all I wanted." The light in the room flickered. Just once. A soft pulse. When it steadied again, he wasn't standing by the window anymore. He was beside the bed, a faint outline near the pillow. His voice was quieter now. Like it was fading. "Thank you," he said. "I can rest now." The room felt lighter. The air warmed. And then, he was gone. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just gone, the way breath disappears on a cold morning. The pillow slowly rose. The warmth in the room loosened. The silence softened. For the first time since Mr. Dale died, room 309 felt like a normal, empty room. 2 days later, I visited his daughter. I told her we found something in the room while sorting his belongings. I didn't tell her everything. Some truths don't belong in the daylight. When she saw the scarf, she pressed it to her chest and cried in a way that made my throat tighten. Not loud crying, quiet, relieved crying. She whispered, "He kept it, after all these years." I nodded. He never let it go. Her hands trembled as she held the scarf. And in that moment, I knew the quiet man had been right. This was what he wanted. A small peace returned. A small grief healed. That night, when I walked past room 309, I stopped. Just for a moment. The room was empty. Truly empty. Not pretending. The air didn't shift. The pillow stayed smooth. The light stayed steady. No warmth. No breath. No quiet man. But as I turned to walk away, I heard a faint exhale, soft and peaceful, like someone finally resting after holding on for too long. And then the hospital felt lighter. Like it had let go of something it carried for far too many nights. You're listening to The Whispering Hour. Another story begins. Most people think hospitals are loud at night, but they're not. They're quiet in a way that makes every small sound feel important. A pen drop. A monitor beep. A shoe scuff 50 feet away. You hear all of it. And after a while, you learn that the quiet is not empty, it's listening. That's why the elevator on the East Wing always made me uneasy. Not because it was old. Not because it creaked. But because it had a habit of doing things no machine should do. It was supposed to operate between 3 floors. Only 3. Ground. First. Second. But sometimes, just sometimes, the doors opened to a floor nobody had ever seen. I never believed the stories until the night I saw it myself. It started around 1:40 a.m. The hallway was dim, the vents humming softly, the kind of hum that feels like a lullaby if you're tired enough. I had paperwork in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other when I heard the elevator bell, just one single chime. Ding. Soft. Calm. But out of place. No one had called it. No shift change. No visitor hour. I walked toward it slowly. The elevator doors were open, perfectly still, and the inside lights were a little dimmer than usual, like someone had turned the brightness down by hand. Then I noticed something else. The floor indicator. G1. 2. Those were the only numbers it had. But that night, something new glowed faintly beneath them. A 4th line. Barely visible. No number. Just a thin glowing dash. Like the elevator had, an unmarked stop. For a moment I just stood there, watching the soft line pulse like a heartbeat. I should have walked away. I should have gone back to my rounds. But curiosity shapes most night shift mistakes. I stepped inside. The doors slid shut behind me without me touching the panel. A soft mechanical click followed. Then the elevator began to move. The indicator didn't show G. It didn't show 1. It didn't show 2. The glowing dash brightened. The elevator was going somewhere that wasn't supposed to exist. I felt a cold drop in my stomach as the walls vibrated lightly, the way they do during storms. But the weather was clear. The building was calm. The air didn't feel like travel, it felt like drifting. Then, after a long humming glide, the elevator stopped. The doors opened. To a hallway that wasn't my hospital. At first glance, it looked familiar. Same floor tiles. Same beige walls. Same exit signs. But everything felt wrong. The air smelled different, old, like paper that had been closed in a drawer for 20 years. The lights flickered slowly, not in a broken way but like they were breathing. And the hallway was dimmer than it should have been. Dim in a way that didn't match the building's wiring. Dim in a way that felt intentional. The silence pressed in from every direction. I stepped out carefully, half expecting the floor to vanish under my feet. My footsteps echoed too loudly. The walls looked slightly warped, like they were leaning inward. The rooms on each side had no numbers. Just blank plaques. Empty spaces where numbers and names should be. It felt like walking through a memory someone abandoned. Halfway down the hall, I heard it. A voice. A man's voice. Soft. Breathing between words. Hello. It wasn't frightened. It wasn't rushed. It was hopeful. I turned toward the sound. At the end of the hallway, near a dark corner, stood a man in a faded hospital gown. He looked confused, like someone trying to recognize a familiar street after years of being away. He squinted at me. "Are you, staff?" I nodded slowly. Yes. I'm Adam. Are you okay? He took a shaky breath. I can't find my room. I walked toward him cautiously. His expression shifted between relief and worry, like he didn't know which one he deserved. What's your name? I asked. He hesitated. Then lowered his eyes. I don't remember. My heart sank. Memory loss patients are common. But something about him felt different. He looked around the hallway, confused. This floor, it's not right, he whispered. It wasn't like this before. Before I could ask what he meant, the elevator behind me chimed softly. Ding. The sound echoed through the hallway like it didn't belong there. The man's face drained of color. He stepped back slowly. Don't go toward it, he whispered. Please don't. That elevator doesn't take you back. The doors were still open. The interior light pulsed gently. Inviting. I took one cautious step backward. What floor is this? I asked. The man shook his head. His voice trembled. This isn't a floor. He pointed toward the dark corner behind him, his hand shaking. It's a place where things get lost. Before I could respond, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then everything went dark for half a second. When the lights returned, the man was gone. No footsteps. No door sound. Nothing. Just gone. The hallway felt colder. The elevator doors remained open, waiting. The glowing dash flickered weakly. That was when I knew I needed to get out of there. I rushed into the elevator and hit the one button repeatedly, my fingers trembling. The doors shut slowly, too slowly, like something was resisting them. For a moment, the elevator didn't move. Then the lights inside dimmed. And the elevator began its slow ascent. When the doors opened again, I was back on the real first floor. Bright lights. Warm air. Normal sounds. Everything was exactly as it should be. But I didn't feel relieved. Because just before the doors closed, I heard a soft whisper echo from the empty elevator. Find my room. For the next few days, I avoided the elevator completely. I took the stairs, even when my legs ached. I didn't care. Anything was better than stepping into that metal box again. But the elevator didn't seem to care about my avoidance. It made itself known anyway. Every night around 1:40 a.m., I heard the same soft chime. Ding. Always once. Always calm. Always like an invitation. Sometimes I saw the doors opening on their own. Sometimes the lights inside flickered softly, just for a second. Once, I walked past and heard a faint breath from inside. Not machinery. Not the fan. A human breath. Slow. Uneven. Searching. I tried to tell myself it was stress. Long shifts. Lack of sleep. But deep down, I knew better. The elevator wasn't malfunctioning. It was remembering. 3 nights later, the situation escalated. I was checking the supply room when I heard footsteps behind me. Soft ones. Barely there. Like someone walking carefully, unsure if they were allowed to make noise. I turned around. No one. But as I stepped out into the hallway, I noticed something strange. The elevator doors were open again. And this time, someone was standing inside. The same man from the hidden hallway. Same gown. Same confused, exhausted expression. He wasn't blurry. He wasn't transparent. He looked real, real enough to touch. He lifted his head slowly. You came back, he said softly. I felt a tightness building in my chest. I didn't choose to. He gave a sad half-smile. No one chooses this place. He stepped out of the elevator. His feet made no sound on the floor. I can't find my room, he said again. But I know I had one. I swallowed. What happened to you? His eyes drifted upward, like he was searching inside a broken memory. I think I got lost. Lost how? I asked. He shook his head slowly. The elevator. It took me somewhere. A long time ago. I don't remember how long. But I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be. He stepped closer. His voice dropped to a fragile whisper. I think I died, in the wrong place. Before I could respond, the elevator lights flickered behind him. The glowing dash appeared again. Brighter this time. Pulsing like something alive. The elevator chime echoed through the empty corridor. Ding! The man flinched. They want me back, he whispered. Who? I asked. He didn't answer. But he slowly raised his hand and pointed toward the elevator floor indicator. Look. The panel flickered. G. 1. 2. Then the unmarked dash glowed, brighter and brighter, until it was the only thing visible. He stepped backward, fear settling into his eyes. That place, it keeps things. Rooms. People. Moments. He inhaled shakily. I don't belong to that place anymore. Then don't go, I said. The elevator doors slid fully open. A cold wave of air rushed out, brushing against my skin. The man shook his head. I want to leave. But I can't leave alone. His voice cracked. Please, help me find where I belonged. I didn't understand what he meant until he outstretched his hand. Something small rested on his palm. A hospital ID band. Faded. Yellowed. The name almost erased. But not completely. David H. My stomach clenched. I knew that name. David Hargrove. A patient from 9 years ago. He died during a power outage on night shift. A generator failure trapped him somewhere between floors during a transport. They found him later. But not immediately. Not in the right place. The paperwork had always been confusing. The hospital didn't speak about it. I looked into the man's eyes. David, is that you? He nodded, a single tear sliding down his cheek. I didn't know how to go home, he whispered. At that exact moment, the overhead lights flickered sharply. The elevator let out a low mechanical groan. The glowing dash brightened so much it drowned the whole panel in white. David stepped back. They're pulling me, he whispered. They think I'm still theirs. What do you want me to do? I asked. Tell the hospital I died on the first floor, he said. Not, wherever the elevator took me. He pressed the ID band into my hand. I need to be found in the right place. The lights dimmed dangerously. The elevator started humming, louder now. David's outline began to soften, like he was being erased. Please, he said. No one should be lost like that. And then he faded. Slowly. Gently. As if someone wiped his presence from the air. The elevator doors slammed shut. The indicator panel faded back to normal. G. 1. 2. The unmarked dash disappeared. The next morning, I reported the ID band. I told them we found it during a deep clean. They checked the records and corrected the original entry. Death location updated. First floor, west hallway. Not, unknown transport error. No one questioned it further. Later that night, the elevator seemed normal. Calm. Quiet. The doors didn't open on their own. The lights didn't flicker. The dash didn't return. And for the first time in weeks, the elevator felt like a machine again, not a doorway to something forgotten. As I walked past it, I heard a faint whisper drift through the hallway. "Thank you." Soft. Relieved. Home. The elevator stayed empty. And the fourth floor, the floor that didn't exist, never came back. You're listening to The Whispering Hour. Another story begins. There's a room in our hospital that everyone avoids after midnight. Not because it's dangerous. Not because of anything dramatic. But because it calls for help even when no one is inside. The staff call it the Echo Room. But its real number is 214. It used to be a regular patient room, nothing unusual, nothing strange. Then, one winter, something changed. The call button started lighting up. Not once. Not twice. But every night between 12:30 and 1 a.m. Always the same time. Always the same pattern. 3 slow flashes. Pause. 2 quick ones. I'd seen it happen for months, but I never responded to it alone. We always went in pairs, mostly for reassurance. Mostly for the feeling that someone else could confirm we weren't imagining things. But on the night my shift partner called in sick, I was the only one available. And 12:30 a.m. came like a breath held too long. The hallway lights were dim as usual. The vents hummed their low, familiar tone. I was doing routine charting when I saw it from the corner of my eye. Room 214's call button began to glow. 1 flash. 2. 3. Pause. Then 2 quick bursts of light. I closed my eyes for a moment and let out a slow breath. Of course. It had to be tonight. I walked toward the room, each step clicking louder than the last. The hallway felt slightly cooler, the kind of cool that doesn't come from air conditioning. I stopped outside the door and listened. No voices. No movement. Just the soft hum of the lights. I pushed the door gently and stepped inside. The room was empty. The bed had crisp sheets. The monitor was unplugged. The chair was tucked neatly under the visitor table. Nothing was disturbed. But the call button beside the bed was glowing faintly. Still warm. I pressed it to reset the signal. The light turned off. But as soon as I stepped back toward the door, it flashed again. 3 slow flashes. Pause. 2 quick ones. The exact same pattern. I froze. My throat tightened a little. "Hello?" I said quietly. "Is someone here?" The room didn't answer, of course. But the silence felt aware. Like someone was holding their breath. I stepped closer to the bed. The mattress looked untouched, but when I placed my hand on it, it was warm. Not hot. Not fever warm. Just, recently occupied warm. My stomach sank. I checked behind the door. Checked the bathroom. Checked under the bed. Nothing. I stood there, staring at the warm sheets, trying to understand what I was feeling. Then I noticed something at the foot of the bed. A small slip of paper. It must have been hidden under the blanket edge. I picked it up. There was only one sentence written in shaky handwriting. "Please don't leave yet." My breath caught. This wasn't a prank. Not tonight. I stepped back, heart beating faster. My hand trembled slightly as I held the note. Then, behind me, the call button flashed again. 3 slow. Pause. 2 quick. I turned slowly. "Okay," I whispered. "What do you want?" The air shifted faintly, like a soft exhale behind my ear. Almost like someone relieved to finally be acknowledged. I didn't see anyone. But I felt something. A faint pressure on the bed, like someone had just sat down. My voice cracked a little as I said, "Can you tell me your name?" The lights dimmed for a second, then brightened again. No answer. But the call button flickered once. A single pulse. Like someone trying to say yes in the only way they could. I swallowed hard. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll stay a little longer." The room seemed to relax. The air warmed slightly. The tightness eased. And for the next minute, nothing happened. Nothing frightening. Nothing dramatic. Just silence. But a heavy kind of silence. A presence. The kind that makes your skin prickle even when nothing is touching you. A few minutes later, the overhead vent rattled softly. Papers on the table fluttered gently. Not enough to call it wind. Just enough to call it company. I sat on the chair beside the bed, slowly, like I was taking a seat next to someone who was already there. My voice stayed low. "Did you press the call button because you needed help?" The light blinked once. Quick. Clear. "Yes." I nodded, my chest tight. "What do you need?" The silence stretched. Stretched too long. Long enough that I thought maybe the presence had left. Then I felt it. A soft pressure on my shoulder. Like a hand resting gently. Not a push. Not a grip. Just a presence. A human gesture. A "thank you." A cold shiver ran down my spine, but not from fear. From the strange softness of it. The call button flashed again. 3 slow. Pause. 2 quick. A message. A plea. "Don't leave yet." My throat tightened. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." The room settled again, calmer than before. But something told me this wasn't the end. Whoever, or whatever, was calling from room 214 wasn't done. And as I sat there, alone in that quiet room, I had the sinking feeling that it didn't want help. It wanted to be remembered. The room stayed quiet after that. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that settles into your ears like cotton, making you hear your own heartbeat louder than anything else. I sat beside the bed, holding the note in my hand. "Please don't leave yet." Whoever wrote it. They were still here. Waiting for something. I leaned forward slightly. "Can you tell me what you need?" I whispered. The call button lit up. One flash. Slow. Gentle. Not the usual pattern. Not the 3 and 2. This one felt sad. Like someone lowering their head. I let my eyes drift around the room. Everything looked normal. The sheets. The curtain. The empty 4 stand. But that warm dent on the mattress. That told a different story. Someone had been lying there. Recently. And they wanted me to stay. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then almost 20. The silence didn't get lighter. It got heavier. Like the air wanted to speak but didn't know how. I stood up and walked slowly toward the window. The glass reflected the room behind me. The chair. The table. The bed. And then, for half a second, I saw something else. A shape. Sitting on the bed. Shoulders hunched. Head lowered. Hands folded in their lap. I spun around. The bed was empty. Of course it was empty. But the temperature near it had dropped. Just around the mattress. Like someone had been sitting there moments before. My pulse quickened. "Are you trying to show yourself?" I whispered. The call button flashed once. A soft yes. I stepped closer to the bed. "What happened to you?" The lights flickered faintly. Barely noticeable. Then warm air brushed the side of my neck. Like a quiet breath trying to form a word. "Did you die here?" I asked. The call button glowed. Once. Longer this time. A confirmation. A life that ended quietly in this room. I sat down again. Softly. Slowly. "Tell me what you need," I whispered. A faint pressure settled on the edge of the mattress. Not heavy. Not frightening. Just lonely. Like someone had been waiting for this moment for a long, long time. Then something unexpected happened. The nurse intercom on the wall crackled softly. Static hummed through the speaker. And through the static, I heard a voice. Weak. Strained. Barely holding on. "Don't forget me." I froze. My fingers tightened around the note. "Who are you?" I whispered. The static crackled again. Soft, uneven breaths came through, like someone struggling to speak. Then a name emerged. Broken by static. But clear enough to understand. Claire. A woman. Not a man. Not the silhouette I imagined. A patient who had died alone. And wasn't ready to be forgotten. The call button lit up again. 3 slow pulses. Pause. Too quick. The same pattern as before. The plea. "Don't leave yet." I swallowed hard. "Claire, what do you want me to do?" The air shifted again. A warmth wrapped around my arm, like a gentle hand gripping me. Then something brushed against my wrist. A piece of paper. Faint. Thin. Crumpled. It hadn't been there before. I lifted it carefully. On it, in weak handwriting, was a single line. "Tell my sister." I wasn't angry. My eyes stung for a moment. Not from fear. But from the weight of that sentence. A goodbye never delivered. A wound never healed. I nodded slowly. "I'll find her. I swear I will." The overhead lights dimmed. The air warmed. For the first time since entering the room, I felt something like relief wash over the space. Then the call button flashed again. Soft. Final. A quiet thank you. The temperature in the room slowly returned to normal. The blanket smoothed itself out. The dent in the mattress rose gently. As though someone had finally stood up. I waited a full minute. Nothing happened. The presence was gone. Really gone. The silence no longer felt heavy. It felt peaceful. I left the room slowly and closed the door behind me. For the first time in months. Room 214 stayed dark. Calm. Quiet. It didn't call again that night. Or the next. Or any night after. The staff noticed. "Room 214's fixed," someone joked. I simply nodded. "Yeah," I said softly. "It's fixed." No one asked how. Hospitals learn not to question quiet blessings. A week later, I mailed the note. No return address. No explanation. Just an envelope for Claire's sister, delivered to the last known contact we could find. Inside was the slipped message. I wasn't angry. A sentence that should have been spoken years earlier. A sentence that finally found its way home. And room 214 stayed silent after that. Like it had finally let a soul rest. You're listening to The Whispering Hour. Another story begins. Hospitals have rules. Some are written. Some are spoken. And some are whispered. Room 7 had one whispered rule. Never walk past it alone after 2 a.m. Not because it was dangerous. Not because it was haunted. but because people kept seeing the same patient sitting on the bed long after he had died. The nurses called him Mr. Kellum. But they said his name like it was a memory they wanted to forget. He had passed away peacefully one evening. Nothing unusual. No mystery. Just age catching up with a tired heart. The problem wasn't how he died. It was what happened afterward. Because every few nights, someone swore they saw him again. Sitting upright on his bed. Hands folded. Looking toward the doorway like he was waiting for someone. And whenever someone stepped inside, he was gone. Sheets smooth. Pillow untouched. Room empty. But every nurse who saw him said the same thing. He looked alive. I didn't believe any of it. I've seen grief play tricks on people. I've seen exhaustion blur the edges of reality. But that changed on my 4th month at the hospital. It was a quiet Wednesday. A quiet floor. A quiet shift. Around 1:55 a.m., I was finishing my walkthrough when I reached the hallway that led to room 7. The lights flickered once. A tiny, harmless flicker. Then the call button panel outside the room lit up. Not flashing, not alarming. Just glowing faintly. Room 7 wasn't supposed to have an active call button anymore. The equipment had been removed after the patient passed. Still, the glow was unmistakable. I stopped. Waited. Listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the vents. Then a soft creak drifted through the half-open door. A bed shifting under weight. My chest tightened. Not tonight, I whispered to myself. But I stepped inside anyway. The room was dim, lit only by a sliver of hallway fluorescence spilling onto the floor. Enough to see the bed. And someone was sitting on it. A silhouette. Still. Calm. Shoulders slightly hunched forward, hands resting on the blanket. My breath hitched. Mr. Kellum. I whispered before I could stop myself. The figure didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't even breathe. But something about the posture. The slight lean of the head. Told me he knew I was there. Slowly, I stepped closer. Sir, can you hear me? The figure lifted its head slightly. Just a fraction. Just enough. I froze. He was there. He was real. Skin pale. Eyes tired. Expression calm. Not ghostly. Not hollow. Alive. But he wasn't. I knew that. I had seen the chart. Seen the record. He had passed away 3 weeks earlier. Yet he sat there. Looking at me with the same quiet patience of someone waiting for help. I took a slow breath and stepped closer. Mr. Kellum, what are you doing here? His lips didn't move. But his eyes softened. Like he recognized me. Like he was relieved. My heartbeat thudded against my ribs. He lifted one trembling hand and pointed. Toward the drawer beside the bed. I swallowed hard. You want me to open it? His hand lowered gently. A yes. I reached for the drawer and pulled it open. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Old. Yellowed. Edges wrinkled. My fingers were shaking slightly as I lifted it. The handwriting was weak but readable. I didn't say goodbye. I looked up. The bed was empty. Sheets smooth. Pillow untouched. No dent. No warmth. Just an empty room. I stepped back, pulse quick and uneven. Whatever I'd seen wasn't imagination. Wasn't grief. Wasn't exhaustion. He wanted something. And he wasn't finished. The next night, the same thing happened. 1:55 a.m. Room 7's door partly open. A soft creak. A faint presence sitting upright in the dim light. But this time, he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the chair in the corner. The visitor's chair. I walked toward it slowly. "What do you want me to see?" The figure didn't move. But when I approached the chair, I saw it. Another folded piece of paper, tucked beneath the cushion. I pulled it out gently. This one read, "Tell her I waited." A chill crawled over my skin. Tell who? His daughter? His wife? Someone he lost long before he died? I turned back toward the bed. He was still there. Still watching me. Still calm. But his shoulders trembled slightly. As if holding back a lifetime of regret. "Mr. Kellum," I whispered, "do you want me to find her?" His head dipped. "Yes." I nodded slowly. "I'll try. I promise." I blinked once. And the bed was empty again. For the next 3 nights, he appeared at the same time. Never speaking. Never moving much. But always leaving something for me to find. A small photo, hidden behind the bedside clock. A ring tucked into a tissue box. A broken pair of glasses under the pillow. Each item had a tiny note attached. Short messages in fragile handwriting. Her name was Anna. I never apologized. She left before I could. I stayed sick too long. Pieces of a story. Pieces of guilt. Left behind by a man who never got his final conversation. By the 4th night, it felt like he trusted me. But on the 5th night, everything changed. Because the room wasn't quiet anymore. And he wasn't alone. The next night, I walked toward room 7 with a strange mix of dread and responsibility. 5 nights of seeing Mr. Kellum, 5 nights of finding his regrets folded into tiny notes. I felt like I owed him something. Like I couldn't stop now. But as soon as I reached the hallway, I knew something was different. The lights were already dimmer than usual. The door to room 7 wasn't partly open. It was wide open, waiting. And the air. It wasn't still anymore. It was moving. Gently. Like someone pacing inside the room. I stepped closer. "Mr. Kellum." I whispered. No answer. But I heard breathing. Soft. Slow. Uneven. Someone was in there. I pushed the door and stepped inside. The bed was empty. The sheets were untouched. But the chair in the corner. Someone was sitting in it. Not the old man this time. Not the quiet figure from the bed. This figure was smaller. Thinner. Younger. Her silhouette leaned forward, hands clasped tightly, head bent. A woman. Hair draped over her shoulders. Shoulders shaking with a quiet grief. My breath caught. "Anna." I whispered. The figure lifted her head slowly. Just enough for the dim hallway light to catch part of her face. There was no emptiness in her eyes. No hollow look. Just exhaustion. And sadness so old it felt like it belonged to the walls themselves. She looked right at me. "You saw him," she whispered. Her voice was soft but full of weight. "You saw my father." I froze. How are you here?" I asked quietly. She blinked slowly. "I never came," she said. "Not before he died. I couldn't. I was angry, for too long." Her hands trembled. "And now? I can't leave." I stepped closer cautiously. "What are you?" I asked softly. It wasn't rude. It wasn't fearful. It was honest. She lowered her eyes. "A promise," she whispered. "A promise I broke, so I stayed." The room felt heavier around us. She continued, voice fragile. He kept waiting for me. Every day. Every night. Her breath wavered. And I never came. I remembered the notes in the drawer. The ring. The glasses. The messages. I didn't say goodbye. Tell her I waited. I never apologized. Anna, I whispered, he wasn't angry. Her shoulders tensed. A soft, painful sound escaped her throat, somewhere between a sob and a sigh. I pulled the last note from my pocket. The one I hadn't delivered yet. I unfolded it slowly. Her eyes lifted. What is that? She asked. I stepped closer and held it out. It's from him. She reached forward with trembling hands. When her fingers brushed the paper, the air around us changed. Warmer, lighter, almost hopeful. She read the message. I wasn't angry. Her breath broke. She pressed the note to her chest. Tears fell silently onto her hands. Dad, she whispered. I'm so sorry. The lights flickered once. Not a warning. Not a disturbance. But something gentle. A presence. I turned toward the bed. Mr. Kellum was sitting there. Soft outline. Kind eyes. Peaceful posture. Not sad this time. Not waiting. Just present. Anna lifted her head and saw him. A soft glow surrounded them. Dim, warm, like the memory of sunlight in an old house. She stood slowly. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her form shimmered faintly. Are you real? She whispered to him. He smiled softly. Not with his mouth. With his eyes. He lifted a hand. She reached for it. Their fingertips brushed. And in that moment, the whole room warmed. Not hot, not bright. Just warm like a long-awaited hug finally happening. The air shifted. The bed light hummed softly. The room exhaled. Then Anna whispered. Thank you, for giving us our last moment. I swallowed hard. She stepped closer to her father. Their forms now gently blending into a soft, pale light. Her final words echoed faintly. I won't stay anymore. The light softened. Dimmed. And finally faded like smoke dissolving into the dark. The room grew still. The chair was empty. The bed smooth. No figures. No shadows. No cold spots. Just silence. A peaceful one. A silence that didn't feel lonely anymore. The next night, and every night after. Room 7 stayed dark. Calm. Still. No flickering lights. No creaking bed. No call buttons. The hallway outside it felt lighter. As if someone had opened a window the rest of us couldn't see. Sometimes I paused there during my shift. Just for a moment. And every time. I feel the same gentle warmth settle across my shoulders. Like a quiet thank you. A thank you from a father who waited. And a daughter who finally came home. You're listening to The Whispering Hour. Another story begins. Hospitals shift rooms all the time. Patients move. Equipment moves. Entire departments shuffle around in a single night. But in all my years working the night shift, I had never seen a room get unassigned. Until room 12. It was cleared out on a Monday afternoon. Bed removed. Sheets gone. Monitors unplugged. Nameplate taken off the wall. The room was supposed to stay empty for the week while maintenance checked the wiring. But someone forgot to tell room 12. Because that night, at exactly 2:10 a.m., the room called for help. The call button lit up. The intercom crackled. And a voice whispered through the speaker, "Nurse, can you come in?" Except the room was empty. Completely empty. And no one was assigned to it. I was charting when the call came through. A soft static pop. Followed by a weak voice. "Please, come in." I checked the room list. Room 12 was blank. I frowned, stood up, and walked down the hallway. The closer I got, the colder the air felt. Not freezing. Just unnaturally chilled. Like the AC vent above the door was stuck on high. It wasn't. The vent wasn't even running. I reached the doorway and stopped. The lights inside were off. The room was entirely empty. Just bare walls and a mattress frame waiting to be removed. No call button on the bed rail. No monitor. No equipment. And yet the panel outside the room still glowed faintly. Call received. I stepped inside. "Hello?" I whispered. "Who's in here?" Silence. But the air shifted behind me. A tiny movement. Like someone turning their head. I turned around. No one. I walked further in, letting the dim hallway light spill across the empty floor. It was strange seeing a patient room bare. Rooms look smaller without furniture. More exposed. More vulnerable. The call light panel inside the room still hung on the wall, wires loose. Halfway through removal. As I watched, the button glowed. Soft. Warm. Someone pressed it. Someone I couldn't see. My pulse tightened. "Okay," I whispered gently. Trying not to sound shaken. "I'm here. What do you need?" The temperature in the room dipped a little. Not harsh. Just enough to make my arms prickle. Then something scraped faintly behind me. A sound like fabric brushing the floor. I turned slowly. A shadow. Sitting in the far corner. Knees drawn up. Head down. A human shape. Thin. Still. Quiet. I stepped closer. Carefully. "Can you hear me?" I asked. The shadow lifted its head. And though the face was dim, hidden by the corner and the faint light, I saw one thing clearly. Tired eyes. Eyes that had waited too long for someone to notice. I took a slow breath and stopped a few feet away. "I'm Adam," I whispered. "Are you a patient here?" The figure didn't speak. Didn't move much. Just watched me with an expression that felt exhausted. Like someone who had been forgotten in a place meant to care for them. I kneeled slightly, lowering my voice. "Do you need help?" A faint nod. Barely visible. But real. My chest tightened. "What's your name?" The shadow hesitated. Then whispered something soft. A small fragment of a word. "Mar, why? Mary? Or maybe something similar." The voice was fragile, almost younger than I expected. "How old are you?" I asked gently. A tiny pause. Then. "I don't know." Her voice cracked. I felt a knot tighten in my throat. "Were you a patient here?" I asked softly. The shadow lowered its head. "I was waiting." "For who?" I whispered. Her breath trembled. "For someone to come." Just then, the lights flickered. The shadow blurred for a moment. Like someone adjusting a memory. Then I saw something near her feet. A folded piece of cloth. I leaned down and picked it up. It was a hospital gown. Old. Faded blue. Child-sized. My hands froze around the fabric. "Mary," I whispered. "Were you a child patient?" The shape didn't answer. But the call light panel inside the room flickered again. Twice. Quick. Like a yes. I swallowed hard. Did something happen to you here? A long pause. Then her voice. Barely a breath. I stayed, too long. The lights dimmed again. A cold flow of air swept across the room, passing through me like a soft current. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if I was alone with her. Or if something else had entered the room. Someone older. Someone watching from somewhere unseen. The feeling was unmistakable. Mary wasn't the only one in room 12. I didn't sleep much after that night. The hospital felt different. Like a place where a secret had shifted and now expected me to do something about it. I pulled the maintenance logs the next morning. Room 12 had been part of pediatrics 20 years ago. Then renamed, repurposed. Files archived. Paperwork folded into boxes. There was nothing on today's schedule. No patient. No assignment. But the archives showed names. Old intake sheets with faded ink. One name kept repeating. Mary Ellis. Admissions listed in the late 1990s. A short stay. Then a note, discharged, unknown guardian. I felt a small shock. The hospital had kept its own memory without telling anyone. I printed the file. The handwriting was shaky, the dates smudged. There was a phone number, long disconnected, and a town name I had never heard. I called the county records office. They were helpful in a sleepy, bureaucratic way. An address popped up after some digging. A small house 2 towns over. An elderly woman listed as next of kin, a sister named Agnes. I drove there that afternoon. The house was small and leaned slightly into its yard like someone comfortable enough to sag. An old Buick sat in the driveway. A wind chime tinkled when I opened the gate. Agnes answered the door with the kind of face that fits perfectly under garden hats. She blinked at me, surprised to see a hospital ID on my lanyard. I explained carefully. We found an armchair on the porch and spoke in low voices. When I said Mary Ellis, her hands went still. A thin smile appeared, then melted into something softer, regret, maybe, and recognition. She was my niece, Agnes said slowly. We took her in for a while. Then things changed. I thought she had gone on, married, moved. I never knew. Her voice was steady but small. Why now? She asked. I told her only what I had to. That the room had been cleared. That something had been waiting. That the hospital had found a gown and a name and a note of sorts. Agnes listened without interruption. When I finished, she folded her hands like she was tucking a blanket around a child in her mind. She used to hum, she said. Quiet songs. She liked paper boats. She got lost in the smallest things. I thought I gave her all I could. Her eyes glistened. Her last letter said she'd wait. I never came back in time. I felt the old, polite ache that works in hospitals, the one that tugs you toward making small repairs. Would you come to the hospital? I asked gently. Just to see the room. To, if it helps, say something. She nodded. Bring the scarf she liked to wear, she said suddenly. It was blue. She kept it in the bottom drawer. We went back that evening. Agnes walked slowly but with purpose. She carried a small blue scarf folded in a faded tissue. When we reached room 12, I hesitated at the door. Agnes paused behind me and then stepped in without a word. The room was empty as it had been the nights before. Bare walls. A mattress frame. And the faint, sensible quiet of a place that has been waiting for resolution. Agnes set the blue scarf on the bed. Her fingers trembled as she smoothed it. She spoke softly, like reading aloud to a child who had dozed off. Mary, we tried to find you. I am sorry. I am here now. The call panel pulsed once. 3 slow flashes. Pause. Too quick. Then the room changed. Not with sound. Not with spectacle. But a lightness settled in the air. I watched Agnes close her eyes and press the scarf to her cheek. She laughed once, a small broken sound. "Mary," she whispered, "I brought your scarf. I'm sorry I left." The air warmed around us. A draft moved the scarf like a hand smoothing it. The hospital lights hummed steady and ordinary. For just a moment, I could have sworn I felt a small weight at the edge of the mattress. A presence. Like someone settling, grateful. Agnes opened her eyes and smiled through tears. "You go now," she said to whatever had been waiting. "I'm here." The call light blinked once, soft, a single long glow. Then it went out. Room 12 stayed dark that night. And the next. When I walked past the door in the weeks after, it felt smaller somehow. Less like a trap, more like a room that had finally had someone remember its name. The hospital keeps odd things. It keeps unfinished sentences. It keeps the hum of machines that outlast their makers. What we did was small. We dug through old paper. We found a name. We drove a few miles. We brought a scarf. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes attention is the medicine. I still walk the East Wing at night. I still hear the small sounds, the monitor taps, the vent sighs. But the wing feels lighter in the place where room 12 used to hold its breath. If you ever work a night shift and notice a room calling for help when no one is there, don't laugh it off. Check the archives. Follow the thread. Bring back the small things people lost. Because often, the night just wants to be remembered. And when it is, it lets go. You have been listening to The Whispering Hour. Tonight's tale fades softly, leaving its last light in the quiet corners of your mind. Let the echoes settle. Let the darkness rest. Good night.